Hey there, it's Deanna. In my video that I did about changing your limiting beliefs, I talked about some of the things that I'm going to touch on in this video. I want to talk about NLP anchors. NLP is neuro-linguistic programming, and it is a huge piece of the Quantum Manifesto Matrix program. Anchors are like triggers that occur in your external environment, and many things that you experience day in and day out serve as anchors. Anchors are basically something that elicits an emotional response within you. And this might be a positive emotional response like happiness or joy, or a negative one like anger or rage. A few common anchors are things like red traffic lights, or smelling flowers, or freshly mowed grass. And for me, baked bread reminds me of my grandma. A particular song, or swear words, someone's tone of voice, a door slamming, a siren, foods like sugar or bread, pasta, a happy memory or a sad memory. You can use anchors to help you supercharge those positive ones, though. Kind of like Pavlov's dog learned to associate food with the ringing of a bell. Many of us use food as a trigger, which is one of the reasons people eat for emotional comfort. When we eat a piece of chocolate cake or maybe have a cookie fresh out of the oven, it reminds us of possibly our childhood and maybe happy memories as an example. In NLP, you can actually use an anchor to deliberately create new helpful associations, which in turn helps you to remember a desired state of mind. And anchors can be visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. When I was doing sound healing classes in my studio, I would actually take my students into a guided visual meditation into a beautiful space that they would create in their own mind. And as we were going through the meditation, I would have them stop and anchor that particular emotion that they were feeling at that time. And it's unbelievably powerful. So I want you to try this right now. I want you to focus on a happy childhood memory. Or you can actually use an adult memory if that is a happier time for you. Take a moment, close your eyes, and just spend a few moments thinking about this memory. I'll give you a few moments. Okay. Now, I want you to just notice how it's making you feel, how good it makes you feel. And when you do this, you create an incredibly visual, detailed image in your mind so that you're feeling it. It might increase your heart rate or make your heart flutter, or you find yourself smiling, or you start sweating a little bit from excitement. Whatever that positive emotion is, when you feel that you're at the peak of that emotion, you can anchor this state in your mind by simply touching your thumb and index finger together. And that is anchoring the memory. And then you can use this as a unique code for confidence, either using the memory of that happy time or by imagining such a time. And once you anchor this memory, you then have access to this resourceful state of happiness whenever you need it. This is a great tip to use before, say, a job interview or walking into a stressful situation, or possibly you have to go on stage and do public speaking and you're quite nervous. Anything like that. You're able to anchor that state, and it's extremely powerful for you. Let's talk a little bit about NLP submodalities. They allow you to change the impact of certain memories. And using this concept, you can make good memories even better, stronger, and they overshadow and downplay the bad memories. And this is a fantastic tool to possess for absolutely anyone, whether you're in the QMM program or not. It's something that you can incorporate into your life. And despite its complicated sounding name, it's really quite a simple concept. Submodalities basically refer to the individual components of any memory that you have. Things like how big it is, or how bright the colors were, or maybe how loud the sounds were, how far away the image is from you in your own mind. And looking at this concept, you can probably quickly see that certain memories have either a good or negative impact for you. So try thinking of something happy and notice how good you feel. This kind of memory can be made even bigger by imagining it brighter and more colorful, for example. And you can supersize the memory by immersing yourself inside of it and making the sounds louder all around you. Now, think of something that might be deemed a bad memory, and notice how this kind of memory makes you feel right now. You could also think of something scary or something that you may not want to face. You can lessen the impact of this kind of memory by turning the image of it black and white in your mind. You can also dull the impact by making the sounds quieter or moving away from the memory in your mind and therefore making it smaller. When you make good memories, even better by making them bigger, brighter, or more powerful, every time you think about them, you actually get a massive boost of confidence and you feel amazing. On the other hand, you can also shrink down those not so good memories and push them away, which instantly makes them weaker for you. And doing this also makes you feel better in the process. NLP submodalities are one of the easiest and most powerful NLP tools that you can actually work with. And it can actually be quite fun. And to work with submodalities, you first need to be a little more familiar with what they are. So let's talk about that. Our conscious awareness has a limited number of chunks of attention, so to speak. As we have seen, and most likely around 7 is what we've researched, according to psychologist George Miller, and there might be even as little as 3 or 4. So to make sense of the huge amount of information that our senses take in each moment from the world around us, we actually unconsciously filter it. We do have to do this filtering, because if we didn't filter, our brains would be so overloaded that the world would appear as a boomerang, booming and buzzing around, and you'd have severe smells and uncontrollable feelings, and the colors would be terrifying, and things would appear almost as if you were a newborn baby first opening your eyes after coming out of the womb. So these are some of the filtering processes that our brain actually uses to protect us. Number 1, deletion. So our attention is quite a limited resource. We just don't notice certain things, especially if we're not interested in them. So in any situation, there is more going on than we actually realize, because most of the information we delete may actually be irrelevant to us. But sometimes we overlook things that could help us if we actually notice them. Distortion. In our attempt to make sense of this crazy world that we live in, we attribute meanings to events based on our own existing map. And I talked about that in the limiting beliefs video. Confirmation bias. Number 3. We pay more attention to evidence that supports our own beliefs and downplays or ignores evidence that doesn't. Number 4. The bandwagon effect. We are more likely to do or believe something when we see many other people doing or believing it. Number 5, illusion of control. We believe that we can control or influence outcomes, even if we can't. The halo effect. If we like one quality or trait of a person or thing, we tend to view the other qualities or traits more favorably. This is where you've heard that first impression is always the most important, right? Number 7, generalization. Generalizations are the basis of learning. When we expect to What we expect to happen is influenced by our own perceptions of actual previous events. We make an assumption. So, for example, gamblers and stock market investors tend to see a winning streak after 3 good results, even though streaks are a natural feature of any random sequence. Usually, though, these cognitive shortcuts work in our favor. Thinking is time-consuming and expensive in energy terms. If we had to think through every single thing that we did from first principles, we would be unable to act at all. We would be stuck in our own mind. However, sometimes these shortcuts work against us, and we may simply miss the relevant information, jump to conclusions, or view people through the lens of prejudice. Some implications. What we experience is not reality. By the time we become aware of experiencing something, it's already been filtered. So, our reality, as we are experiencing it right now, is actually subject to deletions, distortions, and generalizations from our own filters. A good map is one that is useful. Since all maps tend to leave out information, the real issue is not the map, whether it's true, but is the map actually useful? A map is useful to the extent that it helps you find your way to where you actually want to go. And yours is not the only truth. Each person has a very different viewpoint, and they will notice things that you may have missed, and vice versa. Their view of reality is as valid to them as yours is to you. And people who believe that everyone sees the world in the same way that they do are actually setting themselves up for constant bewilderment around the world. People who believe that others should see the world as they do are also setting themselves up for constant disappointment. To communicate with someone, and especially to get them to change, start from their own map, not yours. Don't expect them to jump over to your map right away. Find a bridge from their map to yours and lead them gently over to your viewpoint. Have dialogue. The great hypnotherapist Milton Erickson used to say, "There are no resistant clients, only insufficiently flexible therapists." People's actions make sense from their own map, which we can never fully know or understand. And often their actions would seem a bit crazy or wrong when judged in the context of our own map. So when coaching or communicating with them, it's actually important to suspend all judgment. And this goes with communicating with anyone within your own life, whether it's a personal relationship, a professional relationship, or a romantic relationship. Remember that. When communicating, it is important to suspend judgment. Again, we covered this in detail to help you through the QMM program, and I so am looking forward to seeing you there.